Everybody know who Abraham is. Who was Abraham? Since you said, huh? Father of faith. Let's make it practical. Abraham was called out of what? Babylon. God had a promise for Abraham. What did God say to Abraham? That he would bless him. And that through his seed, he would bless the nations. So the nations was locked up in Abraham. God called him out of Babylon. God called each and every one of us out of Babylon. He called us out of confusion. Babylon is confusion. Called him out of Babylon. Brought him to a place. He brought him to a place in the wilderness in transition to go to Canaan. He was supposed to go to Canaan. So midway, famine came up. How many remember the 12th chapter? Famine came up. And when the famine came up, he went down to Egypt. Same thing happened to us when famine came up. We go to the world. But famine came up, he went down to Egypt. And meantime, when he went to Egypt, he picked up some company. Picked up a few people. How many know when you go to the world, you pick everyone? He went down there, he picked up somebody by the name of Hagar. You got that? And so you see God constantly giving him revelation after revelation from 13th chapter all the way to the 16th chapter. And God keep promising that I'm going to do something with you. And at the time God called him out, he was already 75 years old. So he was past prime. But God said, my promise is not dependent on your flesh.
That's right.
It's always dependent on what I can do and not dependent on what you can do. You got that? Therefore, it brings us to the 16th chapter. Now we see here that Sarah and Abraham, it says, now Sarah, Abraham's wife, bare him no children. And so they would be a little antsy because they felt like the promise was on their way. And matter of fact, they thought the promise was overdue.
Right. That's right.
They said the promise is overdue, so I got to do something to make sure that what God spoke over my life, it come to pass. I got to help God. We ain't got a lot of folks here that feel that way. Y'all gonna get antsy. Y'all don't look around and put that little tape in your tape recorder, or put, you know what I'm saying? Or some of y'all done wrote it out, bukus of time, and keep reminding yourself, and the chronological time is moving and flowing, and you trying to figure out, well, okay, God, what's happening? Right, there you go. Then you go, come on. Okay. You say, where you at? You know what I'm saying? Where you at, God? You spoke this promise to me. Here I am. I'm 86 years old. Because in this chapter, he's 86. So the chronological time is moving. Y'all got that? So we get in a hurry. And it says, and Sarai said, what?
And Sarai said to Abram, see now the Lord has restrained me from bearing children. Please go into my maid.
Hold on a second. That's what happens. Pity starts speaking.
Yeah.
Frustration starts speaking.
Yes.
She was frustrated with the process. See, it's God holding me up. It's God that shut up my womb.
Wow.
Go ahead, boo-boo.
Said, please go into my maid. Perhaps I shall obtain children by her. And Abram heeded the voice of Sarai.
Abraham looked on the Hagar.
Oh, I know he did.
No problem. No problem. You know what? Because I'm tired of my tent smelling like Ben Gay. Because you know, they're 86 years old, so Ben Gay is all over the place. Fixer, Ben Gay, all kind of stuff. Dealing with... I know they didn't have it back then, but they had some type of...
their leaves and herbs. And
yeah, but it was probably minty and everything. You know what I'm saying? So even Sarai had enough faith in her husband. It was a time that Sarai heard what God spoke and laughed in the tent.
yes.
So we can understand that Sarai probably can't understand what God is doing because the promise wasn't given to her. It was given to Abraham. Therefore, every now and then, we have to tune in to something that is not truly familiar with the promise. And for sake of time, we'll heed that voice. And we'll take God's promise and put it in the wrong position. Because everybody can't carry your promise. Flesh, tell your neighbor, flesh can't carry that which is divine.
That which is divine.
Seriously. Flesh can't carry that which is holy. Flesh can't carry that which is divine. Flesh can't carry that which had its origin in heaven. Y'all got that? Go ahead, boo.
Then Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, and gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan. So when he...
Oh, you lost me. Oh, okay, you're in verse 3.
Yeah, and I'm reading
I'm on 4.
NIV.
Yeah, I'm on 4 anyway, go ahead.
Okay. So he went into Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress became despised in her eyes.
So when she what?
Saw
that she had what? Conceived. She was despised in her eyes. Boy, I can preach on that right there. When you get your desire, you have it. Oh, come on. If it don't come the right way, oh, come on now. You start looking down on it with contempt. That's why you got to be careful. Yeah, you got to be careful with who you join yourself with. You got to be careful who you marry. Because once lust is done, it'll make you despise the very thing that you desire. You was in love during the courtship, and lust somewhere creeped in, and then all of a sudden you got looking down on it.
That's right. Yeah. Come on, Pastor.
Yeah, where we at? I'm despising her, but now that's what happens when you allow your flesh to rule. Your perceptions are distorted. You can't perceive God. You can't see God. Now remember, she was the one that looked on Hagar and despised her. But now she's telling Abraham, she's looking at me, Hagar looking at me with despise. And that's what happens when we get in the flesh. We got to make sure that when God gives us something, we make sure we handle it with dignity. We walk in integrity. We make sure we don't allow the flesh to have any operation in what the Lord wants to do. Y'all got that?
Amen.
But I want to go to verse 7 because this is where we really want to go.
You skip 6.
Oh, go to 6.
So
because it's messy. But with it, you don't get the pleasure, the fruit of the Spirit with it.
Amen.
It looks good in the eyes of everybody else. It looks like you're growing. The church is growing. Your life is growing. You're being blessed. You got more things than you ever had before. And God will put honor on that.
Yes.
Now check this out. Go ahead. Name what? Ishmael. Ishmael. He who hears. God said, I hear the affliction.
Yeah.
Ishmael is a product of the flesh. But look at what happened. It says, we found out that Sarai recognized that she had the deadness of her womb, as it said in Romans 4. She recognized that Abraham, she knew that Abraham had the capacity to produce. But she said, you know what, let's take a shortcut. And I want you to go into Hagar. I want to place that promise on the inside of Hagar. But when he did that, and in that conception, they produced the Ishmael. Ishmael is a symbolic of the flesh. Symbolic of the flesh. Say your neighbor, symbolic of the flesh. But look what happens when your promise that God has given you is conceived by the flesh. Look what happens. Look at it. You can see it. It's right there. It says, verse 12. If you look up that word in Hebrew, it says, wild ass man. Okay, I'm sorry. That's what it says. In Hebrew, it got wild ass man. I'm not trying to cuss. I'm not a curser. Trust me. Ask my wife. I'm not a curser. Now, don't y'all raise y'all hand.
I am.
don't y'all raise y'all hand. Y'all said, I just had one last night. But he was a wild man. Wild donkey man for you guys, the virginal ears. He was a wild man. And he couldn't be tamed. When you produce something by the flesh, it cannot be tamed. God